welcome back. Today we are starting marigold seeds indoors for two different reasons. The first one is going to be for companion planting. This year I am doing a whole entire series of container gardening where we will be planting all of our vegetables in containers, and I need some companion plants to go with these vegetables. However, I also sell flowers at a roadside flower stand. This is going to be my second year selling flowers there, and I absolutely loved using marigolds for my bouquets and also using them not just for the flowers, but for their foliage as well. And hey, if you're new here, my name is Christy. I am located in Western Massachusetts, Zone 6A, and my average last frost date is anywhere between May 10th and May 15th. Now, you may be thinking it's a little bit early. However, I like to start mine 8 weeks before my average last frost date. That way, hopefully I can maybe have a flower or two, or at least we have a really good start to our marigolds. As I mentioned, these will be for companion planting with my vegetables and also used as cut flowers. So I like to start mine 8 weeks ahead of time instead of that normal 5 to 6 week mark. So if you're ready to start some marigolds, let's get started. Now, if you're starting marigolds to go into your vegetable garden, that is going to be a fantastic companion plant. I like to put my marigolds on all of the corners of my beds, and I also like to outline my tomato pots or my tomato beds as well. With these marigolds, they give off a nice strong scent, which I personally enjoy. I'm not sure if everyone likes the smell of marigolds. Let me know if you like them or not in the comments below, but they're going to give off a nice strong scent and hopefully help deter some of those pesky insects that you want to stay away from your tomato plants, your squash, your zucchini. I like to also companion plant them with peppers as well, cucumbers. So they make a fantastic choice, and there's so many different color varieties that you can choose from. All of my marigold seeds that I'm using for companion planting, you can get at a big box store. I actually got mine at Walmart, so I have two varieties. One is going to be from Burpee, and the other one is going to be Fairy Morris. You can get these anywhere. I've even seen them at the grocery store, so there's nothing super special about these. I have grown dwarf varieties before, and if you don't have room to seed start your marigolds indoors, no worries. You can also winter sow those. I like to winter sow mine anywhere between 1.5 and 2 months before my average last frost date. So this year, because it's been a little bit on the cooler end, and I do have a few nights in the teens coming up, so I will be winter sowing mine in about 2 weeks or so. So that would be like mid to late March. Today is going to be the 14th, and we are going to get our marigolds for dual purposes today. Another great reason for starting marigolds for your vegetables is to bring in those beneficial insects, especially those bumblebees. I love being able to bring in the bumblebees. They will help pollinate my squash, my zucchini, my cucumbers. You don't technically need them for your tomatoes. You can actually just walk by your tomatoes and give them like a little tickle or a little pat, and that will help pollinate them. Oh, and by the way, here are my tomatoes that we started back in the end of February. I'm going to be potting these up in my double solo cups, but this is going to also be part of our container series. So definitely check out that video on how I like to seed start tomatoes. I also will be doing a side-by-side comparison on growing them in these bootstrap farmer trays compared to doing my double solo cup method. So that is going to be super interesting to see, but they are doing fantastic. So I will definitely be planting my marigolds to go with my tomato plants. Another reason why I also love to grow marigolds in my vegetable garden is it does add a nice pop of color. For a while, you're going to have a lot of green stems, and if I can get these started, like I said, the 8 weeks ahead of time, I can get some pops of orange in there. I know it's not anything too exciting, but I do love just seeing a nice pop of color with all of those greens. When your tomatoes are finally starting to fruit, they'll still have that nice green color until they start to ripen. So having those marigolds does add a nice pop of color into your vegetable garden. And another reason why they are great is they're so easy for beginners. If you are a beginner gardener, I am only on my 3rd year with vegetables, and I was easily able to start them even just by direct sowing them as well. That is also another option. I would just scatter them into the corners, or I would make a little trench along the side of my garden bed if I found that I was just missing some spots. Bury them, make sure they just stay nice and moist, and you will see some results fairly quickly. Now, last year with marigolds, I just started a bunch of them, mostly for my vegetables. Wasn't really thinking about adding them to my cut flowers, except I did grow in my winter sow milk jugs the Mission Giants by Burpee, and they were just getting incredibly tall. I had to transplant them actually out of my garden beds onto my patio, either in some pots or I put them in pots on the outside of my garden beds, and I quickly learned that they made an amazing foliage. Sometimes I was just running out, and I did not plan very well last year when I started my roadside flower stand. I just basically was focusing on zinnias and celosia and dahlias and not really anything to do with foliage. And I quickly learned that marigolds were great for this reason. And then if I did let them get to the chance to bloom, they were also great for my fall bouquets. And I love the scent that they added in. And not only were they great for their foliage, but they also last a long time. So they pair really well with sunflowers and black-eyed Susans, those fall ones with my coleus as well. They would last anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. So it's also a great reason to start some marigolds for cut flowers as well. All right, so we're gonna get into which varieties I plan on starting. I have my containers ready to go. I am going to be keeping up with my Bootstrap Farmer series, and I will have all of the marigolds that I plan on using as companion plants in those 6-cell packs, so that way I can keep an eye on which is for where for planting later out. And I do have a 40-cell count tray, which will be for my White Swan and my Mission Giant Yellows. And then whatever I don't have time or space for, I do plan on winter sowing some in about a week or two. So let's get to it. So before we get seed starting, I actually forgot. I need to go over a few things with you, and that is how we are going to get them germinated and what to do afterwards. So marigolds only need about 4 to 7 days to germinate, and they are at a rather high temperature of 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Usually when I'm doing all my flower seed starting, it's either 70 degrees or sometimes even below. Peppers are very warm. Tomatoes usually are very warm. So for marigolds, again, 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I like to put mine on a heat mat where I do insert a little probe into the cell. That way it can just keep the soil at a nice regulated temperature. I'll probably keep it at 75 degrees. That way they will be under grow lights just because of how my heat mat's set up, and the temperature will rise a little bit once those lights are on by a few degrees. So you want to make sure that they are lightly covered with soil. They don't technically need light to germinate. You do want to just finely cover them. I also always like to add a layer of vermiculite. I grow everything in my master bedroom, and we have these humongous ceilings with lots of light, so it can get fairly humid in here, and I still cannot find right now where I have my fan. I do have some algae growing on some of my trays, which I'm not quite worried about. I do add vermiculite. That's always another option. I'm hoping I can find those fans soon to get that under control. But yeah, I always add vermiculite, and then I will water them in, get them on a heat mat with a humidity dome on top, and then I just like to keep them nice and moist, and I will mist them every morning or night, just kind of keeping an eye on them. And then if I notice them drying out, definitely get some water on them, because the worst thing you can do is let your seedlings get dried out and they won't germinate for you. Earlier I did mention that I am starting these 8 weeks ahead of time. If you don't care if they're not flowering or not, and you don't have, the grow light space right now, no worries. You can start them anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks before your average last frost date, and they will do just fine. Or as I mentioned, go ahead and winter sow them. You will be surprised how many annuals you can actually winter sow and have some great success and not have to worry about that hardening off process. If you don't know your average last frost date, no worries. Just type in Google your zip code, ask what your average last frost date is, and it should appear for you. I also like to go on the Farmer's Almanac website, and that will also have an area where you can put in your zip code, and it will let you know your average last frost date. Years ago, my average last frost date was May 15th. This year, it's May 9th. I have learned after last year, with it being so cold up until June, I don't plan on getting mine out until probably Memorial Day weekend. With the flowers, I could harden them off maybe a week or two beforehand. It all depends. We still have snow on the ground, and I am just starting to get into the upper 30s and 40s during the day, but we are still dipping down into the teens at night here in Massachusetts. I'm going to show you my trays and we can get planting. I have my trays all ready to go right now. So to keep in good spirits and keeping up with what is going to be for my container series and what is going to be for cut flowers, all of my container series for my vegetable garden are going to be in my Bootstrap Farmer trays. So I have 4 6-cell packs. That is just going to mainly be for my companion planting. I will start some more in winter sown milk jugs later on. And then I do have a 40-cell count tray that I kind of just smushed in here right now just to get the germination process started, because all I have to really do is just make sure that everything stays well misted. And then once these are germinated, I will put them on to their own bottom tray. But but it's just gonna save me some space under the grow lights and on my heat mat, and then that way they can all be under one constant humidity dome, and I'm not trying to figure out who needs to go where. And then these are going to be at a much higher temperature than the rest of the cut flowers I plan on planting this week or seed starting. So it's just gonna be a lot easier. So I do have my soil all ready to go. If you're new here, I just got this big bin right here from Home Depot. It was like $8 a couple of years ago. It's probably a little bit more than that, but it is great for getting your soil prepped and ready to go. I have been using just Pro Mix potting soil. I will just get everything well watered in, I mix it in, and then if I squish it in the palm of my hand and it holds its form, such as this, then I know it's good to go. If I'm squeezing it and like water droplets are coming out of it, it just means it's too wet. No worries, add some more potting soil. You can use seed starting mix. I find it kind of just dries out a little bit too quickly for me. So I really do like using this potting soil, and I got it super cheap in the fall from Walmart when they had a big clearance sale. They're normally, I think, like $15 or $16 a 2 cubic foot bale, and I got them for like $6 or $7. So it was great. So I just have a ton in my garage, and I'm slowly getting to it. Now for the varieties. As I mentioned, I just got these from, I think, Walmart. These are actually from last year. I had some left. So from Burpee, I'm going to be using the Climax mixed colors. I really liked these ones in bouquets. These ones are a little bit taller, so I will put them probably in some pots, not mixed in with my tomatoes, but like on the outside, some like little accent pots. And then I have the Cracker Jack mix. Those will be going into the pots with like my tomatoes and peppers as well. And then for cut flower purposes, from Johnny's, I did get their White Swan. I have not tried this one yet, so I'm very excited to do so. And everything on this plate I have labeled as the Mission Giant Yellow. That is a Burpee variety. For whatever reason, I cannot find it this year. I think you might be able to buy it on the Burpee website. They had yellow and orange. I think maybe one of the colors might be available right now. So right now I'm just going to be using some saved seeds from my garden this past fall. All right, so we are going to start by making sure all of our plant tags are in. I know that my White Swan doesn't have too many, so I'm going to do my flower one second. And we will do our 6 cell packs first. So I'm actually going to take them out and move this tray over, and they don't require light to germinate. So I didn't pack my cells with too much soil because I know I'm going to have to place some soil on top afterwards. So I have 2 6 cells where I will be doing the Cracker Jack variety, and then 2 of them I will be doing our other variety as well. And this should be plenty, and I can always direct sow them once everything is planted out because they do grow rather quickly. So I'm gonna get these in, and we'll do one a little bit further off, and then I'll get it nice and close so you can see how I do bury them afterwards. All right, so I am going to start with the Cracker Jack, and these are nice and large, which is nice. You can just dump them out on the palm of your hand. And you always get so many. You can put 1 or 2 seeds. Sometimes I like to just do 2, just for good measure. And what I will do is I just lay them down flat, push them in, and then we will bury them after with a little bit of soil. If you find that both of them do germinate and you don't want to have 2 per cell and you don't feel like potting them up, I usually just leave them in here. I haven't found like they've been too root bound. You can always thin them out by just cutting one of the stems down. But I always put 2. I like to overseed everything. I feel like there's no such thing as too much flowers. I have probably started way more than I probably can plant, but that is okay because I will find somewhere to put them. All right, and then I dropped a few, so I'm gonna grab those, and I'll show you up close what these look like. So here is our seeds. And then, let me just put these ones back. You can save these for a couple more years. They should be good. Just make sure you keep your seeds in a nice, cool, dark place and they'll be all set. And then this is what they look like up close. I am just going to, oh, look at that. Here's one right here. And then I will be taking some extra dirt. Now I do everything, like I said, in my master bedroom. I try not to make a huge mess. So I will just go in lightly, because I do have carpet, so it's not super ideal, but we just have the most space up here. and it's just convenient for watering. So I'm just gonna go through and just try and basically just lightly cover everything. If you were outside, you could be a little more reckless with your soil and just quickly add on a layer. And then you always just want to make sure they have good contact, so a nice, good press and will be great. And as you can see, this is moving rather quickly, which is super nice. All right, so that's what I do. And then I just take my vermiculite. It is a fine, coarse, and I will just sprinkle a light dusting on. This is always optional. It just really helps with moisture control, and my room just gets really humid, so it's always a nice plus. But you'll still see some algae sometimes. Like I said, it has been getting warm. And then I do have a mister, so I'm going to just make sure everything gets watered in nicely. And it is as simple as that. So we have 2 down. I'm gonna get these onto this tray. I'll come in closer so you can see our next variety, and then we'll start our seeds for cut flowers. So lighting might not be the best today. It's pretty overcast. Here are my leftover seeds from last year. So this one, I might just only have enough for 1, and I can always backtrack. So I'm just going to gently place them in. Oh, actually, it might be pretty good. Making sure they always have good contact with the soil. And I always try and space them apart a bit. Oh, look at that. I even have some extra. Oh, wait, I can put 1 here, 1 there. Huh, perfect. So as you can see, we have our marigolds in, and I am going to take some soil and gently, without hopefully making a huge mess, place them on top. Just lightly covering your seeds. I have found that if I miss them sometimes, the roots just kind of sit on top of the soil. So you might have to just go back and push it in if you ever see this happen. It happened a few times, I think with like my hibiscus mahogany splendor, I think it did that. And maybe, I don't know what else did. There was a couple of other things I had to kind of push back in. I think some of my perennials, maybe my sea holly. A few more to go. And then we will top it with our vermiculite, water them in, and then we will be good to go. All right. And then sprinkle. I'm pretty sure I forgot to do a cell, but that's okay. We'll try and backfill this one. There we go. Great. And then we will get our pot. And we have our mister. And we are just going to make sure they are watered in nicely. And there you have it. We're gonna move on to our cut flowers, and then we're gonna be good to go. I'm gonna start with just my Johnny's White Swan marigolds, and then I will do the Mission Giant Yellow with whatever's left over. And I am only going to put 1 per cell for now. And then maybe save the rest because these were kind of expensive for marigold seeds, that is. Maybe we'll do half and half. Oh, that one's got 2. All right, so I'm gonna save the rest. And then we will do our Mission Giant Yellow. And I'll see you in a minute. And just like that, we have all of our marigolds ready to go. I will get them on the heat mat. I do have a nice humidity dome that I will be placing on. It does have some vents too. Sometimes it gets very humid and hot in here, so I'll open the vents up during the day. I've actually had to be cracking my window open, even though it's only in the 30s. So this is what it will look like under the Bootstrap Farmer kit right here. It is perfect. I'm able to get my probe in, and then this actually locks on really nicely. So that way it can stay at a nice consistent temperature, keeping that moisture in. And I also like how tall they are because it's great for propagating any, say, snapdragons or your dahlia cuttings. It's great just because it gives it some extra room to grow in. So thank you very much for following me along on starting our marigold seeds. And if you would like to stay updated, especially on my container series where I show you how you don't have to have all of these beautiful raised garden beds just to have a vegetable garden, that you can do everything on your back patio or in a corner spot in your lot, go ahead and click like and subscribe and hit that bell button, and I will see you all next time. Happy gardening. Bye.